Yeah, we're not getting feedback from ours. It's recording.
This is the main one for everything right here, and this is the main one for the wireless, so in case you have to do one of those two. You want the rest of these?
Do you want the rest of these put out, or not? Maybe one more?
One more.
Okay. And grade these?
Hey, Doug. How are you? Good.
Okay. I'm not going to be on the squawk box, huh? Okay, good. Oops, we're a couple minutes late here. We better get rolling. I'm sorry. Okay, that clock is a little fast, but...
Thank you.
Okay, can we get the meeting called to order this morning? Good morning, everyone. This is the meeting, August 19th meeting of the Finance Performance Management Committee. And I guess our first question is, do we have any public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along to the items on the agenda. The first item is the approval of the July 15th meeting minutes. Are there any corrections or additions that we need to make?
Approval is issued.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and approved. Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No? Okay. I said that wrong. I mean, I approve. There were no... We got it. There were no disapprovals. Okay. All right. So, FDOT grant approvals. Ms. Leos.
Thank you. Good morning. This is a continuation of our agreement with FDOT, and we get three types of grants from them. We get the block grant, which is for operating assistance. We also get the Urban Corridor Program fund, and this is to help reduce congestion and improve capacity upon our urban roadways, and also provides inter-county connectivity. We also get Service Development Fund, and this is for increasing service to our riding public. So we have a total of 6 grants that they have put forth for us. We've got our block grant for about $4.1 million, the Express Route 100X, Express Route 300X, East Lake Flex, the Curlew Road Flex, and Express Route 60X, which is a new grant this year. In total, we'll be receiving $5.9 million. That represents an increase of $787,000. Should we make any changes to the routes in which they have listed here, we can always go back to FDOT and make any withdrawals or corrections or amendments and work with them on that. And we are looking for the board or the committee's recommendation to the board the acceptance of the grant.
Okay. Any questions? Bill?
Curlew Road Flex. Is that the Tampa connector?
Yes.
Why do we call it Curlew Road Flex? I don't think it even
Good
runs
question.
on Curlew.
It's because this grant was applied for before our marketing department came up with the names of the routes several years ago, and FDOT may be a little bit behind in approving it. You'll note on there that one of the grants is for the East Lake Connector Flex, which is recommended for elimination. We have had a number of discussions with FDOT. They're well aware of our service plans, and they have asked us to go ahead and submit the applications as we've done in previous years, and then they will amend it so that we can take the funds that are listed for East Lake, to $234,000, and move them to another route. But you also note that there's an Express Route 60X, which doesn't exist. So those funds, which is the majority of the increase in funds, can only be spent if we start a Clearwater Beach to Tampa Express Airport service, and $980,000 is not sufficient to get that launched. So we're communicating with FDOT about that grant, but for now we're still trying to reach, accumulate the rest of the funds to get that going.
Could we hang on to that money for a while until we determine whether we can get supplemental funds to initiate the route?
Yeah, we can't hold on to it forever, but as long as we communicate with them, for now we're okay.
Okay, and we're okay with realigning the $234,000?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no problem there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we need to take these individually?
No.
I don't think so. Okay, with those annotations yes, sir.
A couple more questions, if I may. What is the operating cost of the 60X total?
We are projecting that to be approximately $2 million, $2.1 million a year. We believe for it to be successful, it has to operate basically the times that the airport is open and airplanes are coming in and out, which is pretty much 24/7. And so it is a very expensive proposition from an operational point of view, much more expensive than the Central Avenue BRT, which is our other legislative priority.
And the pricing structure, we've already determined roughly what kinds of fares we would charge for that route, so that the funding from fares would not have a significant impact as far as getting closer to our goal in terms of getting that started.
We have not determined or priced out that service, whether it follows our very regular fare policy, which we're going to hear more about today, or it has some kind of special fare. That $2.1 million is gross cost, so that does not factor in revenue. Obviously, if the bus is totally packed 24/7, which I kind of doubt it, but that would eat into that number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have a potential target date for that, or is it still just...
It's our top legislative priority. At least the legislative committee is recommending that to you next week at the board to make that one of our top priorities, and hopefully we will see some support for it either through FDOT additional grants beyond this 980 or legislative appropriations next year. So probably the earliest we would try to launch that. Again, we're trying to bid this out and run it with the private sector since we don't really have the buses available to do it. So I would imagine if we're successful in getting some additional funds, we would issue a RFP probably in 9 months next summer, or next spring or next summer after the legislature is over, and so we're still probably more than a year away, a little bit more than a year away from launching it.
And why are
Mr. Johnson?
And why are we dropping the amounts on the East Lake and the Curlew from, like Curlew was 333,000, now it's going down to 211?
That is the most awesome rhetorical question of the Florida DOT. The Florida DOT has allocated urban corridor funds to our routes that cross the border with Hillsborough County, and the numbers change from year to year. I'm sure, I see Cassandra behind you and Pam over there with more detailed answers, but I do not believe they know either.
I think I heard yesterday that Elmo Lopez is changing jobs, and so...
Lopana?
Isn't it?
Is that
Did
true?
we hear that yesterday, LCB?
I think so.
I didn't know whether that would change anything. Okay, so we don't... I wouldn't think so.
They did change the numbers.
Okay, any other questions? All right, do I hear a motion to approve the move?
Second.
Recommendation?
That's the recommendation to the board.
Just a
Yes.
recommendation to the board, right. Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, no opposed? Okay. Next on the list Auditing services. Ms. Leos, you're a busy person today.
Yes, it's been a very busy month. No less than every 5 years we go out for RFP for audit services which are required. And this year we had 6 respondents. Mayor Hoffman McCann, as you know, has been our auditor for the last 5 years, and they are no longer in the governmental auditing business, so that's why they did not propose this go-around. But we got six respondents to our proposal, and we have today with us the staff's recommendation, which is Andrew Laughlin from Clifton Larson Allen. I'm going to invite him to come up. He's the principal there. When we heard the presentation, they had a very strong transit background. What I really liked is out of all the firms, they gave us the most hours, 675 hours dedicated to PSTA per year on an audit. And that was about, on the average, 25% higher than the other firms. And what I'd like to see is, I love a good tough audit. I want to see what we're doing right, and I want to see where we can do improvements. And I think they demonstrated to the staff not only that they have the expertise in the transit grants, NPD areas, where we do our single audits, NPD regular audits, that they will be able to hold us to an even higher standard than we are today. I'd like to turn it over to Andrew to maybe for a couple minutes just give us a little rundown on why you request firm.
Andrew, if you just hold on a quick second, let me just introduce something. There's a little bit of wrinkle. I would just like the committee to note the PSTA rules and regulations, the board's rules and regulations, call for the audit committee, or which is designated as your committee, the finance committee, to actually approve of the auditor for PSTA. So, unlike other recommendations that you recommend to the full board, the way this one is, well, I don't know if it's written differently, but it really is the choice of you, the board. Staff has done this procurement and is recommending Clifton Larson Allen, and I think you'll, after he whistles his lovely music, you'll love him too. I think your action should be in the form of approving of Clifton Larson Allen as the PSTA auditor, and then recommending the contract to be approved by the PSTA board. But it really is your, according to the rules and regulations, it is your decision.
And if I may just add on that, Brad, the reason for those who may not understand is actually the auditors report to this committee. They don't report to Brad or to myself, and allows them the independence to come to you with any issues directly. So that's why there's a recommendation under best practices to have recommendations from the committee, the approval.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, thank you. I mean, I better whistle a good tune then. So, as Debbie said, I oftentimes don't hear that. Usually my clients, they ask me to take the gloves off. She's asking me to put the gloves on and be a tough auditor. So I'm happy to do that, Debbie, and we're going to have a great relationship through the course of the audit. So I know some of you, not all of you, so just give you a little bit of background information about our firm, a little bit of our transit-related experience, and kind of why we're excited to be working with PSTA. So, Councilmember Johnson, Commissioner Dayton, I know you've heard me present before, but try to pretend like you're interested. It's the first time you're hearing it. Just to give you a little overview about Clifton Larson Allen, we're actually a really big firm. We're the 9th largest accounting firm in the country. We've got over 90 offices, almost 4,000 people nationwide. Nationally, we have a real solid transit practice. We especially in the state of Baltimore, we have a number of different local transit authorities, and state and local transportation agencies, so we can call upon those resources whenever needed. Nationally, that's kind of one of the values of having a big firm, is we have the depth of resources beyond just of our local office. But with that said, locally we have a lot of experience too. I mean, me personally, I audit a number of transit-related organizations. I audit Hillsborough Transit Authority, HART. I audit Hillsborough County Aviation Authority, a lot of things happening at Tampa Airport right now in terms of the master plan and the construction, so it's an exciting time to be an auditor for Tampa Airport. So I'm the principal on that engagement. I'm the principal on the TBARTA, Tampa Area Regional Transportation Authority audit. I do work with MPOs, so I audit Lee County Metropolitan Planning Organization. I've audited Pinellas MPO. I currently audit Pinellas Planning Council. So I know transit, and my team knows transit, and I think a strategy that we employed is to say, let's get that same team that works on HART, since they're so similar organizations, one's just across the bay, and let's use that same team to audit both entities. And I think that'll be a real advantage in working with PSCA, and the fact that we'll have the efficiency and the effectiveness of the audit based on our prior experiences working with HART, from both just knowing operations, understanding grant compliance, understanding MTD reporting. So I think it's going to be a good marriage based on the experienced personnel we're bringing to this organization. I think another thing that the selection committee really liked that we said that we can help with them is I really consider us more kind of a professional services firm, not just an audit firm. So at the end of the day, I don't want to just hand you all the audit opinions and say, okay, it's been great, it's been fun. Like I said, we've got a lot of resources within the firm that extends beyond just pure auditing services. So some things that that raised to the selection committee's attention. We've got a telecom advisory services team. They've worked extensively with HART. We did a cost savings assessment and saved HART about $50,000 a year on their telecom bills. Also, HART wanted to put wireless in their buses so that passengers could have wireless access. So there's a big Verizon contract that they're looking at, and we had the requisite experience to look at that contract, make sure the pricing was fair, make sure all the terms in the contract were advantageous to HART, so we did a big project with them on that. We do a lot of special projects with our local governments on process improvement, performance audits. We've done a lot of performance audits for Hillsborough County. So anything, what I want to do is have an initial meeting with management and just listen to their pain points, see what issues are going on within the organization, and see if we can help. It might not be the auditors in the room, but it might be other specialists within the firm that can do that. It's strengthening internal controls, figuring out how we can do things more efficiently. I think we've got the needed team that can serve in that capacity and add value at the end of the day. And also, I really, I value the audit committee and look forward to working with you all. HART also has an audit finance committee, so yes, I do interviews, meetings with the audit committee members and say, hey, what risks do you foresee are on the audit that we can maybe tailor our procedures to? So I get your input throughout the process as well. It's not just a presentation at the end of our audit and say, okay, here you guys go. I want a consistent dialogue with you all as well. So look forward to working with management. Really look forward to working with you all, and just happy to be a part of this opportunity. That's all I got. If there's any questions that you all might have, I'm happy to answer.
Questions? I have a question. With your representation on TBARTA and MPO, Pinellas MPO, is there any kind of conflict or anything along those lines? Because there is some overlap in those two organizations and us.
No, and we did audit the MPO. I think FY13 was our last year, so we no longer audit the Pinellas MPO, but we still do audit Pinellas Planning Council, and we audit TBARTA. Even if we did still audit the MPO, I mean, there's still separate organizations. I wouldn't see any independence issues.
Okay. Do you have a Chinese wall kind of a setup inside your firm, or how do you handle that?
Well, you're saying with different
people handling each one?
If
No
there
interaction?
was a perceived conflict,
Yeah.
then we would evaluate that, and then, we would
Okay.
take action. We've got a national compliance department that would look at any issue and say, all right, here's how we need to solve it. Let's get separate team members on each engagement if that was an issue.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
How do you handle conflicts? If the client, PSTA, disagrees with the interpretation that you have on the subject?
Sure. Great question. And it comes up. So, first thing obviously is early communication. Let's get down and sit and talk about it. And then if we just have a difference of opinion, let's say, for example, how a transaction should be accounted for. There's multiple layers of kind of tiebreaker votes. There's the engagement team that is working on the account. Then we have and I'd be the engagement partner. that would look at it. I'd kind of say, here's my opinion, Debbie doesn't agree, okay, let's go to our quality assurance partners. We have a national quality assurance technical group, so I would go to that assurance partner. He's in our Lakeland office. Then we have other members of that group that we could then consult with and say, okay, what is the best way to handle this, given my opinion, given management's opinion, and hopefully come to a happy meeting there. And if not, then we can look at outside. Outside we can actually go. We have GASB technical resources. We can actually contact the GASB if it's an accounting related issue. There's other avenues that we could reach outside of the firm if that's necessary.
In your office, are you, I forget, Tampa or Brandon?
Tampa, yeah, we're right next to, right near the Tampa airport, so yeah, quick and easy, 15 minutes away.
Okay, I just want to say we've been doing business with this firm for about, I think, 5 years now, and have always found them helpful, and as I mentioned to Debbie, I think they're a little tougher than some of the other people we've worked with. And also, we were talking a second ago, when my accounting people have got a problem, they call up and say, what should we do, what is your opinion, and they get back to us. And so this interaction, although in our cases it is not too extreme, but it's always acted upon, and it's very much appreciated.
Good point. You're speaking about your city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I have one additional question, and I don't know whether this is a question for Brad or Debbie, but there's a roughly $56,000 difference over the course of 5 years on lowest to highest. I realize we're not obligated always to go to the lowest bidder, but do we anticipate any kind of issues with regard to the differential in pricing structure?
Oh, from the lowest bidder?
Yes.
Again, we looked at the things, qualifications, their audit approach, et cetera. I don't foresee any issues in regard to that. I think that the firm brings quite a bit to the table, especially when you look at it on a per-hour basis. They're giving us 675 hours as compared to somewhere in the 500-hour range. And one of the things that we've talked about is neither one of us likes surprises, and I want to know early on if anything that we're doing will require additional work on their part. It would then cause them to increase their fee. For instance, the fee with our last auditors went up because we did the CAFR. That was unanticipated.
Mm-hmm.
So those kinds of things will be vetted, I think, early on with whoever we work with.
Okay.
And I think their proposed fee is in line with our former auditors' costs and therefore the budget.
Okay.
So.
All right. I just want to make sure we don't anticipate a problem bringing it to the full board or any kind of feedback from outside entities.
Yeah.
So that's my issue. Okay.
Well, that is a good point. The two other firms that were less, would you comment briefly on their experience or some of the
Certainly.
ratings that...
Actually, it's the HCT, which is one of the lower firms. They do Miami-Dade, but that's about all that they do. They didn't come to us with a robust approach to the audit. Qualifications, et cetera, were ranked lower. And Moore, Stevens, Lovelace, they were one of the ones we did interview. They had very limited experience. I think they've done one NPV report. And they did not bring to the table how they would utilize some of their expertise to be able to help us to the best extent. And so they were lower cost but didn't bring the experience.
Okay. My suggestion is when we talk about this next week that we expound on that at the meeting, just to make sure that we cut off potential questions on that issue. Okay, are we ready to
Saying
vote?
This would not be on the consent agenda.
It is not on,
No, are you suggesting?
oh, no, but if someone does raise the issue, then we need to be anticipating.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, do we have any other questions? Are we ready to vote on this? Okay, I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you, sir.
So do we need a second
Yeah.
motion to recommend the board ratify the contract? If
Okay,
so,
yeah.
I would make that.
Okay, fine. All right. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson, I appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Absolutely.
Okay, next on the list, trolley agreements. Ms. Land?
Yes.
Oh, you're over here, okay.
This is an action item in which PSTA staff is asking this committee to recommend to the board the extension of 6 trolley agreements for fiscal year 16. In the interest of saving time, I'll briefly review the 6 agreements that are detailed in the write-up and PowerPoint presentation. 4 of these agreements, although PSTA does not provide the services, PSTA does fund these services almost entirely. These are the 3 routes with Jolly Trolley and the Looper. So for Jolly Trolley, it is the Beach and Clearwater Marine Aquarium route, the North Coastal route, and the Safety Harbor route. The 4th agreement is with the Looper service in downtown St. Pete. And then PSA also lends out services to 2 non-members of PSTA, that's St. Pete Beach and Treasure Island for the Suncoast Beach trolleys. And finally, there's a Central Avenue trolley in which PSTA receives a subsidy from St. Petersburg to provide free and reduced fares on that route. All of these agreements have been accounted for in the fiscal year 16 budget, and PSA staff is asking this committee to recommend approval to the board.
Okay. Any questions? Commissioner Johnson?
One thing that I think would be useful, and I can never quite remember, some of them you show the partner contribution, but some of them I don't think we show the partner contribution. And of course, they have certain things that they get from advertising because there's, I don't know that that's necessary, but it certainly would be useful to see how much PSTA is contributing out of their total cost for providing the route. I know, for instance, advertising is a bigger component on some of them than others. The Looper, there's the business organization in downtown that contributes.
We could show, of course, all that information is detailed in the actual agreements with each of the services, but we could show pretty easily get a percentage of the total cost of each route, each service that PSTA is responsible for, so you can see a comparison. I mean, because that varies depending on, and then that way the board can kind of see how much of a player we are on each of them.
Yeah, and that would help, for instance, on the Safety Harbor route, where the different funding comes from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask which one is the Safety Harbor? Is that part of the North County? Number C.
C.
C. Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you would want to ask if there's comments from the public. I know that
Oh, we have some
folks
people?
from Jolly Trolley are here.
Okay. All right. Do we have some folks from the public who would like to speak? No? Okay.
I did ask them before, and that they have been discussing this, if I can report that. The other thing that I did ask them is whether they have been updated on the fare changes, and they reported that that is something that they'd like to maybe participate in when we get to the fare options. So,
Okay.
I do.
Cassandra has sent me the information to review. We have not had an opportunity to sit down in entirety to review it, but she has sent me the proposed fare structure.
I think it's real important that we share information with our partners whenever we're coming up with a new thing. So.
All right, and Mr. Scott?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Brad, just to follow up with Bill's comments as well, it's a little confusing to sort of understand how much PSTA is actually paying in it, percentage-wise and things like that.
Yeah.
For instance, it says for the North County Coastal, it says $60.75 an hour, and then the PSTA subsidy is $22,752. Is it in addition to the $60.75 an hour, or is that all of it, or it's
The
just a little?
$60.75 an hour is the contract rate that we have with the operating agreement with the Jolly Trolley, and then on that route, as well as the other Jolly Trolley route, there are multiple partners. There's formulas for computing the share of the total operating cost for each partner. In the case of the North Coastal, it's PSTA, Tarpon, Springs, Dunedin, Pinellas County, and the Clearwater Downtown Development Board. And PSTA roughly is about half of the net cost of that service. But yes, the $60.72 is the total cost per hour. It's in our contract, and then the shares are all worked out.
Okay. So that's the total cost, and everybody kind of chips into.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Now it says here that ridership to date on the Clearwater Marine Aquarium was up 62.3%. Wasn't it down though because of they were filming something in?
Yeah, it was closed the year before for the movie,
Okay.
and then now it's opening again, so that's why.
That's a pretty big increase
Yeah.
just because of that factor.
Well, it was closed.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
there was no ridership for a while, and then
Okay.
it's back to pretty much where it was.
Okay. Do we have any, I know at least with the Looper for a while there, we had agreements for, lease agreements for the vehicles as well. Does that still exist with the Looper or with Jolly Trolley or anybody? How does that?
It doesn't exist at all with the Jolly Trolley.
Okay.
It, I believe it does exist with the Looper, that PSA has title to a couple, more than one?
Okay.
4, I'm being told 4 of their trolley buses for $1 a year. We are trying to negotiate with them and get FTA approvals to turn the titles over to them.
Okay. So there's 4 right now. So that would be included in the lease agreement.
Yeah.
So just to go step further down the road, if we turn the titles of those vehicles over to them, at some point those are going to have to get replaced. Who would be then obligated to do the replacement funding?
The Looper. I mean, those trolleys have exceeded their useful life. That they're running them. They have some other trolleys that they have acquired themselves, and quite frankly, PSPA has not seen them in my lifetime. I mean, in my time here. I mean, they were gone, and a former administration policy was to lease them for $1. I'm not sure why, and it just doesn't. We're trying to make sure it's okay, and then they just have them, and then it would be their responsibility.
Okay.
Or the contractor, whoever we select's responsibility.
And from an insurance perspective, on all these agreements, PSTAs, are we insulated from any liability?
Yes, that's covered in our cost with the providers. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, we do have.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Hi, Bob Slipper, Chairman of the Board of the Jolly Trolley System.
Mm-hmm.
We would like to share with you that we own and have purchased all of our own equipment. We have no liens on any of our equipment. And I think as we go forward through the next several years with some of the changes that may be on the horizon, I think that's important for you to understand that we are fully equipped to handle this type of public transportation. We rely on nobody else outside. We don't even use fare box revenue to pay for equipment. We have another source of revenue to supply that equipment or support that equipment.
So,
Okay.
actually, it brings up a point, is the 60-75 an hour, is that offset by fare box? How does that, do they keep fare box, does that come back to PSTA?
Our total cost is offset by the fare box. So we negotiate an hourly rate, and then we negotiate the service hours. We take off a percentage for advertising and a percentage for fare box recovery as a goal. And so if they exceed that goal, then it's kept by the Jolly Trolley. If they fall under that goal, we have a UPAC agreement with them back to see how that, make sure that they're kept whole on that goal.
Cassandra, do you know if the 60-75 number is net of those offsets, or is before those offsets? Before the advertising and...
Before those offsets, and then we negotiate the hours, and then we take the advertising and the fare box recovery off the total.
Okay, any other questions? Any other comments? Good? Okay, so I'm looking for a recommendation.
Well, I'd kind of like to see some of those, the splits. I don't know that I would change the recommendation, but I would like to see that detail on how the share.
The accounting? Is there a way to do that?
Yes, well, I mean, I don't have the calculator with me right now, but I can give you a ballpark on each. I can email you these splits. They are, of course, in the contracts, which are links to your packet, so that you do have them. And it's really the pleasure of the committee. If you want to hold off on making this recommendation and just have this as a full discussion at the board with percentages, I'd be glad to do that. Cassandra, do you have a comment?
We could potentially get that for you before the end of this meeting. I know that we have it in our files as we discussed
Right,
with finance, so.
We'll leave this open and we'll come back to it?
Sure.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
So we won't hold up? Okay. Yeah, if you could do that, that would be terrific. Okay, let's put this aside for a few minutes and move on to the next topic, and then we'll come back. And Henry.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm Will. Thank you. Henry Lukasik, Director of Maintenance. It's hard to believe that, good morning. It's hard to believe that it's been a year since I came before you to seek approval for the 2015 buses, but it has been a year. I'm happy to report, just as a side note, on the 2015 fleet that they arrived in July last month, and they are set to be deployed in full by the end of next week. What I'm happy to report about is that today, one is actually out en route. It's on Route 19, which is going from Tarpon to St. Pete as part of a preliminary testing and shakedown, and so far so good. Being said is that we are actually a week ahead of our goal of deployment of next week, but we're going to go through and thoroughly test them fully. In comparison, in 2013, it took us approximately about 12 weeks to turn around buses to get them into service. Last year, in 2014, it only took us approximately 8 weeks, and this year, 2015, approximately 5 to 6 weeks. So we've really decreased the amount of time to turn around buses coming in that are new and get them out on the street. happy to report that.
Chairman?
Yes.
We're now having Gillig do more of the configuration and stuff, so why is it taking 5 weeks to...
Yes, sir. We started that program on the 2015 bus order turnkey builds. We continued it in 2015. I recommend we continue with that for the 2016 order. It really has decreased the amount of time it takes to turn around stuff. The bus comes to us in a more complete built fashion. We just go in, we check everything out, and we have all of the representatives from all of the engine manufacturers, transmissions, air conditioning, you name it, everything that's on the bus, they come out here to PSTA. They help us with our post-delivery and acceptance testing, and by the time it hits the street, we're all very comfortable that there's nothing left that has to be done to it. So it just really has been a great program, really decreased the turnaround time to getting the buses on the street.
How about signage and all the other items before we put it out on the street, putting the fare boxes in, all those kinds of things?
Right. The only, all of the signage is already on the bus. It comes to us from the factory on the bus. The only thing that we've done this year is, the only thing we've had to do is program the destination signs, check out some of the GPS and next stop announcements, make sure those are upload working, and install a fare box. That is all that we do. And then, of course, go through it top to bottom.
How long is the sort of support staffing from the vendors with us? Just initially, or are they there available to us for a period of time?
Well, you know, they are here for us for the lifetime of the bus.
Right, but I'm talking about whether they're physically here in case there's an issue.
Physically here?
Yeah.
I can tell you with one particular company, Clever Devices, that's the ABL GPS technologies. You know, they come and go as we need them. For example, they've been here 2 or 3 times already. They will come back as needed. They will help us with problems off-site. We have very good working relationships with our vendors.
Okay.
So they can come here as needed. With a bus, there is a 1-year bumper-to-bumper factory warranty. And then obviously there are warranties throughout the life cycle of the bus for each particular component. So they are very responsive and helpful to our needs. I can't say that I have any one particular vendor that does not give us the support that we
Okay.
need.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Now I guess we can go to the approval.
Oh, God.
Considering
Yes.
the new.
Yes. So,
Okay.
Thank you for answering that.
before you today is a recommendation to approve the purchase of 7 2016 model 40-foot diesel low-floor buses, along with some technical training and some tooling that we will need from the Gillig Corporation at a cost not to exceed $3.6 million. Little background, as you know, PSTA utilizes the Lynx Consortium contract along with us. There are many other transit authorities in Florida that utilize this contract. I just mentioned that we took delivery of 13 diesel-electric hybrid buses, and those will be deployed next week, which will bring our hybrid electric fleet to approximately 61 buses, about 31% of our approximately 200 bus fleet.
31%? Is it?
31%. Obviously, as you've heard, under the Path Forward plan, our commitment to our ongoing bus replacement plan is one of our greatest priorities. Moving forward, under this buy, these will be the clean diesel buses, and that was approved at the May 2015 board meeting. Our commitment to the sustainability is still ongoing and strong. These buses have newer, cleaner diesel engines, and we're going to go in that direction. And these will replace the 2001 model buses, which are pre-emission laws. I would like to say again, as a side note, next Monday, we have some staff who will be traveling to Sanford, Florida, to take a look at the brand-new 2017 emission-compliant diesel engine. I'm hearing some preliminary reports that it's an interesting engine and interesting setup. As you know, there's a new round of sweeping emission laws coming down the pipeline. I hear it's even affecting airplanes and their emissions up there. And of course, it's the Obama administration has definitely talked about really decreasing the level of emissions even further than what they already are. So I think we're in an interesting time period again where technology is really going to hopefully not have a lot of challenges, but we will deal with it as it comes because it's the law. So to recap, total turnkey cost of one 2016 model bus is approximately $501,000, and with a total for the 7 buses of about $3.5 million. Again, we are requesting that approximately $18,400 for the purchase of 72 hours of technical training for our maintenance staff to continue keeping up on the technologies that we have coming with the newer model buses, and approximately $8,800 for the purchase of it's called a multiplexing diagnostic test kit. And what that is allowing us to do is just really get in there, and the electrical systems on these buses are very high tech. If you opened up a panel, you'd just see a lot of blinking red and yellow lights and not a lot of wiring anymore. So we need some newer equipment to be able to talk to some of these buses. A lot of them run just like a computer, servers and networks and codes like that. So again, these buses will be 100% federally funded by the FTA funding and are included in our approved capital improvement program. So we're looking for a recommendation to approve the purchase of 7 replacement 40-foot clean diesel low-floor buses, the technical training and the tooling from the Gillig Corporation for a total not to exceed $3.6 million. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any comments? Yes, sir. Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Henry, and I agree completely with your plan in continuing to have as much work done at Gillig, and that's definitely the most they could do at the factory is definitely the best way to go on that. Just curious, are there any new specifications that you're imagining on these new buses? Any new technologies that you're thinking about compared to what we've been purchasing?
No. As you know, for the 2015 buses, we've already gone ahead and adopted the disc brakes, and so we're ready for that. Actually, our technicians are in training right now for that. I believe that's going to be the mainstream of braking technology moving forward. In terms of the transmissions, actually, we are going to go back to utilizing our Voith transmissions. The DOT 5 was the type of transmission. So we're not anticipating that we're going to have to purchase additional inventory of parts, even though these buses are newer. So we're not going to see any increase in parts, and a lot of the stuff is going to be the same as we've always been purchasing.
Okay. Where are you going to get the Voiths serviced around here?
The Voiths are being serviced at Cummins South up in Tampa.
They are? Okay.
We also have a good working relationship with Voith up in York, in Pennsylvania. We utilize a contract for an exchange program. Voith transmission has been very good to us in terms of longevity. We average about 500,000 miles on a transmission.
What is the name of the vendor?
Voith. V-O-I-T-H.
Okay.
How about tire pressure monitoring? Are you experimenting with that at all?
Great question. It is one of my things that I think about a lot.
Things that keep Henry up at night, tire pressure monitoring.
Tire pressure, great question. We actually can order those with the bus, just like you can with your cars. We've been looking at it. One of the things is if we do that, we'd have to kind of go back and retrofit the existing fleet. I think that, and I have been looking at a project to do the whole fleet. Right now, we do check our air pressures quite diligently, and then, of course, under our tire lease program, our tire vendor, Michelin, comes in and does their own audit checks because they all want to make sure that we're maximizing our mileages. So far, we're doing well. But that is on one of my pet projects. I like to say that I have them looking at. It's one of the easiest ways, I think, to make sure that you're maximizing your tires and also, of course, the fuel.
And fuel economy.
Exactly.
All right, thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, we're talking about these being significantly less emission. Do you have any idea of what the percentage difference is between the 2001 and the what's the difference in the emissions? Do we know that?
Without having a chart in front of me, I can tell you that anything pre-2008, 2008 is when the emissions actually started coming in. I know doing this is to 2010 and doing this to 2001 doesn't tell anybody anything.
All right.
But I can tell you that it's substantially less. If I was to quote you a percentage, I would not be quoting it accurately, but I can tell you that what we are required to have in terms of emissions compliance today, and I really don't know yet as to what is going to be happening to us in 2017 and moving forward. The emissions are so low, it's quite impressive. Now, the technologies to make them low, that's even more impressive because it's a challenge.
But could you say, well, before we were getting 100 and now we're doing 20 or something like that?
It's done by parts per million of emission, and there's a lot of different things they look at. For example, nitrous oxides, NOx. They have carbon, sulfur, a whole bunch of things.
I would be one of the many brochures and propaganda from the companies.
Because people say, well, it's lower. Well, how much lower is it? Well, it's a lot lower.
Henry has it taped into his office, the emission breakthrough template.
I would be happy. I know exactly what you're looking for,
Yeah.
and I can definitely provide that.
That'd be great. Okay.
And I think that's a question that the board would ask, so I think it'd be nice to have that.
My question is, how much differential is there in emissions between these new proposed vehicles and the turbo-electric or diesel-electric buses that we're currently using? How much are we increasing our emissions by going back to diesel?
Well,
because these are larger engines than will be in the existing buses.
it's comparable. The federal government sets the mandate that no vehicle can have emissions higher than a certain point, and then everything has to fall below that threshold. So at this point, I will say it's comparable, but that's...
Comparable to...
We can put the...
It's
That'd be interesting,
yeah.
Comparable to diesel-electric.
It's comparable. But the chart that you're...
I have a hard time visualizing that.
From emissions or from fuel economy?
Fuel. I'm talking about emissions.
Emissions are the same, it's just use more fuel.
Well, then we're using more, then we're doing more emissions. Yeah.
But I mean, the tailpipe, if you burn a gallon through the diesel hybrid and a gallon through, it's
Right,
the
but the
same,
miles
you're
per
just-
gallon with a diesel bus are lower because we're not using an electric motor a good chunk of the time.
Right.
Yeah.
The fuel economy, the diesel-electric bus is approximately 1 mile per gallon better than the clean diesel engine.
Anybody else have any questions? My feeling is, as you know, that this is going backwards. And I'm very concerned about it, both from the standpoint of our appearance to our environment, and I'm very concerned about it in terms of the fact that we're not setting the pace as far as being environmentally sensitive. I really am very concerned about the image that we're abandoning of trying to be as environmentally sensitive as possible. We're a public entity, we're not a for-profit entity, and we have to set the pace for the country as a whole and for our community. And I really am very much against going back to a diesel engine as a primary source. I'd love to see us all electric, but we can't do it because of our route size. I'd love to see us take a look at CNG, but it won't work because of our route size. But I'm very concerned about the environmental significance of going back to diesel buses. That's my concern. I realize we can buy more buses for less money, but I'm concerned that we're reverting back to being not a polluting entity, but a less sensitive environmental entity. And I think that doesn't do us any favors in terms of our image to the public. That's my concern with this route. Roughly, Henry, how many buses could we buy for $3.5 million if we bought Jogger electric, diesel electric buses?
About the cost.
5?
4.
4? All right. So if we had 4 buses instead of 7 buses, what would that impact on our route be, on our routes? In other words, would we have to maintain some of the old...
2001 old buses?
Yeah, the old white buses, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
costing more in ongoing operations and maintenance. I mean, Chair, your comments are well noted, and PSCA does have a sustainability commitment. We maintain our commitment to being a leader for the community on being a sustainable organization. Sustainability is a 3-legged stool. It is environmental, but also financial and social. And we still are, even with these diesel buses that Henry loved. It is the cleanest way to get around of transportation we have in our community, even with the diesels. It is not as good as having hybrid electrics as far as the environmental goes, but it is substantially. There's significant savings, and from my perspective, we have to look at a sustainable financial capital replacement plan over the next several years as we get through this hump of some 60 buses that we have to replace coming down the pike. We're not getting rid of any of the hybrids, and in fact, our percentage of fleet, of roughly a third of our fleet being hybrids, is right in line with our benchmarking group, and it's going to stay that way for another decade. None of those hybrids you see out there today are going to stop running, unfortunately, for more than a decade. They're going to keep running around Pinellas County, not emitting as much. So we're not getting rid of our commitment, but we are showing the community that we have a sustainable program of bus replacement. Now, if Congress comes to its senses and comes around and provides bus funding, then we can look at something new. But in my estimation, I don't see that happening immediately. So,
I think it might be interesting if we could, when we talk to the board about this, if we could show them the difference between how much these new ones are emitting versus the old ones of 2008, and how much the new ones would emit compared to a diesel. And what you're saying is that it's a mile a gallon, or it's not huge, but if it's comparable and it's not a huge difference, then I don't have a problem with it. I'd love to do the diesel, but if we can do something that is going to be just a little bit less, but save us a whole lot of money, I think that makes a lot of sense.
I'm just concerned with our image.
Yeah.
That's it's really important, yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Scott?
I think it's a really good point that Brad and Henry brought up, that by leaving those 2001 vehicles on the road that have zero emissions on them whatsoever, we are being very environmentally responsible by taking those off the road and replacing them with 2016 emission diesel engines, which you can literally, and I know the chart you're talking about, Henry, I've got it in my office too, and I don't know the numbers, parts per million difference, but you can take a white glove and wipe it on the inside of a diesel exhaust system today, and it comes out white. That's the difference. So those old smoky stacks that you used to see going on the road, that is a long gone era. So I wouldn't lose too much sleep over it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
What we don't have is a little comparison of the cost, lifetime cost per mile of the diesel versus the hybrid. I take it it's less of an advantage now than it was originally.
I wouldn't say that, sir. I mean, we can dust off that presentation that we provided to you about a year ago where we did that full cost per analysis. We have not done any new analysis over the life of the vehicle. The operating and maintenance cost of the hybrids appears to be less. It's slightly less on the fuel. There's actually more of a savings on the ongoing maintenance over the life of the bus. So it could be approximately a wash. It just right now, with our focus on losing that federal fund for the capital bus replacements and such a large number of buses coming due, it's my recommendation that we, for now, not promise the community we'll never buy another hybrid or electric or hydrogen bus in the future, but for now, just to get through, have a sustainable plan, is buy some of these diesel buses now that, as Brian said, are clearly much more environmentally friendly than the ones that are replacing.
Yeah.
But no, we haven't done any additional analysis that shows that these are cheaper or better, anything like that.
So it's just simply the sustainability of replacing the fleet,
Right,
getting those old ones off.
But we're not talking about just buying 7 buses, then we're talking about over the course of a number of years, we're going to be buying more of these things. So we're going to continually be going backwards in terms of our...
Not backwards, sir. No, not backwards. We're not replacing any hybrid with the diesel. The hybrids are going to stay in the fleet for at least the next decade, is what we're projecting. So yes, the 2001s and 2002s are going to probably very much likely go to 2016s and 17 diesels, but if there's another way, we will do it.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, so each year we will make a decision based on both financial stability, sustainability, emissions, and fuel economy to move forward. We could, in the future, go back to hybrids. But right now, we're having trouble getting through that hump. And so that's what I hear our CEO saying, that is driving his recommendation this year.
Okay. Any other questions? All right.
So basically, the trial, or where the big thing came in 2008 when they started lowering everything. So what we'll be doing is lowering things up until 2008 with the next.
That's when we started buying the hybrids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got another while before we'll have to worry about replacing anything that's really good.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we are putting in applications to try to get some electric buses for our circulators and see where we can find the funding. Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a recommendation?
I would move approval.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 1. All right. Thank you, Henry.
Thanks, Henry.
Okay. Riders Code of Conduct of an appeals process. Okay. Yes, sir.
Good morning. Our track committee has been busy. Last night at their meeting, they recommended and approved the Riders Code of Conduct that is in your packet, and recommended that we go to the board with that, to the board of directors, but we're asking for your approval and recommendation of that also this morning. The Code of Conduct is for the safety and the comfort of all of our customers, and there's a list of activities and behaviors that are prohibited, and also on the second page there you'll see an appeals process for any who are suspended or trespassed from riding PSTA vehicles or at PSTA properties. Most importantly, though, is the marketing piece with regards to the Code of Conduct. And Alyssa is going to give us a brief presentation on how we're going to market that, to make sure that our customers understand what this Code of Conduct is. Alyssa?
Thanks, Jeff. Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Alyssa. I'm the social media coordinator here. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we're going to convey this message to the community. So we're going to introduce this through a video series called The Rules of the Road, and we're going to do it through a storytelling and compelling graphic process. So to start, we're going to have 4 characters in a series of 4 videos, and it's going to talk about how they ride the bus and how they know the rules to ride the bus. So I'm going to talk you through a storyboard of one of the first ideas we have for our first video. So this is Ricky. I'm going to introduce you to him. He is headed to downtown St. Pete for a concert. He knows he can take the bus to downtown St. Pete, he can grab a bite to eat, and he can also take the bus home that night. But he also knows that he has to follow certain rules when he rides the bus. You can see he's got rollerblades on. Can't really tell, but he does have headphones, and he's got an open container. He knows he has to dispose of any open food or open drinks before he gets on the bus. And he knows that he can't wear his rollerblades while riding. Takes his rollerblades off, replaces them with his shoes, flags down the bus driver, but also puts his headphones in because he knows he can't play loud music while on the bus. At the end, he knows the rules of the road to use. So we're going to have a series of 4 videos. We're also going to have an interior bus poster. It's going to get pushed out on social media. We will have a page dedicated for it on our website. We'll have brochures available at all the information centers, and we're going to push it out to the media. We also have reached out to all of the local colleges, and we've got about 20 students on board that are willing to help us with these videos.
Do we have a really significant problem with people, disobeying any of these basic rules right now?
No, we do not.
I mean, we don't have like
No, we don't
disturbances
have
on the bus or anything like
No,
that.
we don't have widespread problems with that. We have sporadic things.
Yeah,
But,
right.
no, we don't have any
Right.
widespread problems with it.
Okay.
The idea is, we're not police officers. We're not trying to create a police state in PSTA.
Mm-hmm.
We want our customers to be comfortable on the bus, and the potential customers that see this to go, ooh, PSTA has this code of conduct, and this is what I would expect when I got on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if somebody crosses the line here and we have to trespass them or suspend them from the bus, we really win in a couple ways. Number one, we address the behavior. Number two, if they were to put on a baseball cap and dark glasses and get back on the bus and ride the bus quietly, we win. That's what we've done, is we've still got the rider. They're riding that bus, but they're doing it in a sensible way, in a way that that is acceptable not only to the potential customer, but to us as running the operation.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're looking at, to make sure that this gets out here and people know what's expected, and that it's safe for people to ride.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this consistent with what other transit agencies do, and have we reviewed FTA regulations to make sure that we're in compliance?
Yes, we have. First of all, we looked at several major codes of conduct in several other cities: Dallas, Atlanta, Charlotte, and Tallahassee, for a little local flavor from one from Florida that we looked at. and it is in compliance with any other.
And really, it is a sort of a best practice
Right.
that's going on in the industry, that it's like a self-policing marketing thing,
Yeah.
but the customers really like it. The track committee has really kind of led the whole
But
effort.
I would think this would help as far as our image with regular commuters,
Yeah.
business people taking a bus to work, or others that would be maybe uncomfortable if there were a problem on the bus. But my experiences have been we've really had a lot of problems, so we can probably do this pretty low key, so we don't, turn anybody off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Well,
Yes, sir.
When you come on the bus, I was riding over in Germany on the bus, and you get on the bus and there's a sign that says no eating, another sign says no drinking, and so forth. So those things are boom right up in your face. But all the rest of this is, I guess. But those things are right there. Are we going to do anything like that, or any sort of thing right in your face?
Yes, as Melissa mentioned in the presentation there, there's going to be several onboard messages or onboard signs.
Yeah, but nothing that says those things.
Well, pleasantly but firmly in your face, I would say. Yeah,
Okay.
That's what the marketing plan is.
All right, so it'll be there, okay.
And it's really like a self-policing thing. If it's there,
Yeah.
no stroller carts, and then someone on the bus is kind of mad that the person has an enormous stroller thing,
Yeah.
they can maybe kind of just mention it, and the next time the person will do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we've sort of checked, as Commissioner Scott mentioned, we've checked this out with other similar, not competing, but other
Yes.
bus carriers.
Many other agencies,
Yeah.
We've researched it very thoroughly.
So they've already been doing it, and we can feel comfortable we're not,
Yes.
really doing any new things here that might
No, it's nothing.
inhibit our performance or anything like that. Okay. Any other questions?
Oh, I got one.
Good.
If we find somebody who is violating these things, other than throwing them off the bus, do we have any other options? Can we say, no, you've got a fine, or something like that?
A fine?
A fine.
No, we're not going to fine them. We have options, though. We certainly, our bus operators are trained to deal with them on an individual basis,
Yeah.
challenge what's going on. For example, if they're evading the fare,
Yeah.
okay, let's say they don't want to pay the fare. Well, we ask them for the fare. If we don't make any, and if they still insist, no, well, we don't want to hold up a bus full of 50 other people because one person doesn't want to pay the fare, we ask them to take the seat. Then the next time, we're ready for the same action again with, removing them from the vehicle and transportation supervisor, or if it gets to local law enforcement being there to help with that. So those are our steps that we use. But we don't find anybody, no.
Okay.
On number 13, carrying, possessing, or brandishing weapons of any kind, whether real, fake, or close in resemblance, do we need an exception there for law enforcement?
Law enforcement, yeah, they're on our vehicle, they're allowed to carry whatever they have, yes.
Number 13. So we don't have to make an exception for that?
No. Yeah, law enforcement is welcome on our bus anytime.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Any comments from the public?
I think this is a terrific idea, and I would recommend, I would move to recommend approval to the board.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody? Okay. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Appreciate both of you. Okay. We're running a little behind here, so bus advertising contract. Ms. Cromedy.
Cindy Raskin-Schmidt, our manager of communications, is not here.
Okay.
Let me just introduce Luann Cromedy, who is our procurement director. This came before the board previously, and we tabled it and reissued an RFP for contracting out our advertising on the sides of the buses. And we have now completed that procurement. It's before you. We have a recommended contractor, and as part of the same resolution and action item is a modification to our advertising policy that governs the kind of ads on the sides of the buses. This go-around, as we talked before, we asked the bidders, or the proposers, how much more money in a guaranteed revenue would they give us for adding alcohol-related advertising and governmental-related ads. The proposals for alcohol-related ads, or the increased amount, was relatively minimal, only $25K, and so I'm not going to recommend that our policy be amended to allow for alcohol ads. So we would stay with no alcohol ads permitted. The governmental ads increase was more substantial, $50K in the first year, so I am going to recommend that we amend our policy to open it up to governmental entities advertising on the sides of those buses, like FDOT, Don't Text and Ride, Visit St. Pete, Clearwater, Pinellas County Health, etc.
Okay, so those are samples of what kind of things we would anticipate?
Yeah.
They haven't made us any proposals yet for that?
No, but those are the kinds of ads that Hart has on the sides of their buses.
Okay.
Lou, I can describe it if you want, but the procurement process has been completed. With the company is called Direct Media USA. I will note that the first go-around when we did this procurement in June, there was a different vendor selected that we ultimately pulled the RFP off the street and didn't award to another vendor. That vendor, called Advertising Vehicles, they came in second place in this go-round, and they have filed a protest. The PSTA protest procedure is clearly denoted in our rules and regulations that call for them to file a protest, and then requires me as the CEO to file a response within 15 days, and we are in that 15-day window now. Not saying much about it, but it does. Our regulations do not require us to suspend award of the contract, and we will have completed that 15 days and responded back before the board meeting next Wednesday.
Okay. So, I would suggest just to make sure that Alan has a good response to that, because that probably will come up in the full board meeting, and it might be worthwhile for him to be prepared to answer as much as he can. Now, you can't talk about specifics of any kind of litigation that might entail or anything like that, but at least have a...
Right, he is definitely,
he'll
leading our
be
response.
ready for any questions that might come up next week.
Yes.
Okay.
He will be prepared.
Any questions here? Yes, Mr. Jones.
Just a comment. The principal reason for selecting Direct Media over Advertising Vehicles by the committee, not the appeal process, was the amounts of revenue and the percentage paid to PSTA? Or
Yes. It's not, the scoring criteria essentially weighted the revenue that we generate at approximately 40% of the overall score, and they clearly were the highest. They proposed the highest amount of revenue, but they also were selected based on the other 60%, which was sort of experience and those sort of things. So
a motion at this time would be to recommend staff, or the selection committee's recommendation subject to resolution of the appeal.
Are there any other, we may have other questions. No? Okay.
No.
All right. I have a question. These numbers are substantially higher than what we saw in our last offering. So I'm just kind of curious. I don't know if Lou Emmett, do you know what the difference is, why we got higher bids this time?
In the dollar amounts for the minimum guarantee.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what the...
I don't remember exactly either, but these numbers are bigger.
they were slightly higher. I don't know if they were enormously higher.
Yeah.
I think within the negotiation with Direct Media came in a little bit higher with the minimum guarantee this time, and then that was through negotiations. But they were pretty much
the
Okay.
last time.
All right.
Advertising vehicles, their minimum guarantee was what we negotiated the last time. So the numbers may have changed a little bit, but not that much.
Okay. So now, do we have any kind of a breakdown as far as what types of advertising that would be on there? I'm not talking about the topics, but I'm talking about full wraps, side, back, that kind of thing.
That's, it's stated in the RFP exactly what they can do.
Uh-huh.
They have the 50/50 mesh and what they can cover and what they can't cover. So
Okay.
all those specs are spec'd out in the RFP.
Okay, and because Commissioner Johnson last time had a question about windows being covered and things like that, so that's all in there?
Right.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And that's the motion as I stated,
Yeah, to present to the full board.
to present to the full board subject to resolution. of the-
Right, absolutely. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're a little behind here. I don't want to hold everyone up too badly. Cassandra, can you give us a rundown on the fare box?
And let me go ahead and introduce this to you. I know we're running behind.
Mhm.
We still want to get back to the trolley agreement.
Okay.
I put in front of you a spreadsheet that looks like this, that is also in your packet on page 92, the little mini spreadsheet at your spot. And it sort of, I wanted to just introduce this discussion of our proposed fare increase to you by highlighting why we are recommending a fare increase to be effective in October, why we are also recommending next, at the meeting coming up after this, service adjustments to the routes, and why I originally recommended an ad valorem increase to go to the cap, but now am likely to make a recommendation in a different way. The first column on this page you can see is FY16 proposed operating budget 6/19/2015. This is the budget that I presented to you, the draft budget I presented in June. You can see the operating revenues minus expenses generates just under $3 million surplus. 2.9 million, if you see that, 2.910855. This meets exactly with the goal of the Path Forward plan of donating just about $3 million to a capital reserve fund for the future, for bus replacement, for the future bus replacement. The whole key to this budget and really the Path Forward plan is a recognition that the federal government is no longer there to support 100% of our bus replacement needs like they have been for the last 25 or 30 years. That now we're going to have to put our own money, our local money, into the buses in our fleet. And so the goal has been to put in $3 million into this reserve fund. It didn't buy the buses that you just recommended, that Henry just talked about, because we do still have some federal funds for those, but we need to start setting aside funds for this very large purchase we're going to be purchasing in a couple of years. And so the goal has been to put in $3 million into that capital fund. The way we got that $2.9 million fund was listed down at the bottom of the page, really in four ways. The advertising revenue increase is a small portion. But basically $1 million for the fare increase, $1 million in the ad valorem increase, and just under $1 million in savings by the route changes. You see that? That equals the $3 million. The reason we are recommending a fare increase next year is to buy buses, is for the buses. The reason we are proposing to change the routes is to prepare for our future, is for the buses. Now, we are constantly looking all the time for ways we can save money at PSTA. And Debbie and our finance department has done a great job. We have noticed, maybe you, Brian, have also noticed, that diesel fuel prices have plummeted just in the last couple of weeks.
No, I had noticed that.
In the last month or so. And we have now locked in diesel fuel prices for next year thank you, Debbie, for about $1.1 million in savings compared to the budget we presented to you in June. So it is now, the board will have the option. They can donate $4 million to the Capital Reserve Fund, but I think there's enough time in our capital replacement plan and our operating budget that we don't need to do that. We can stick with the plan to donate $3 million to the capital fund by not doing one of the three things below. It's my recommendation, based on the public input that we've received a lot of public input so far, that we go ahead, and I'm going to still recommend this fare adjustment. I'm going to recommend that we modify and reduce these low-performing routes, but that we hold off on adjusting the ad valorem tax rate for this coming fiscal year. But the board really has its choice. So now with that, in a very abbreviated presentation, which is an informational item to you now, we're going to talk to you about our fare increase proposal. Okay, go.
Thank you.
Okay, very quickly. Brad, obviously those are the crux of the issue are the buses. We have been talking about a fare policy change for quite some time. If you remember, late last year we codified the existing fare policy and then also did a fare survey looking at some new products, talking about going to the regional fare collection. We've also been talking to the local coordinating board about the TD fares, and I'm sure that Mr. Scott has some information for us from that meeting. There are really two decisions here. One is the structure of the fares itself, and then the other is the price. Streamlining fare policy and fare tables is an industry standard now. It really is a best practice for all agencies, especially those that are using a mobile app or a smart card. And as we move to that, we really need to think about changing that structure that we have. This is our current fares and structure, and it is meant to be up there so you can't read it because it's really difficult to navigate. What we'd like to do is streamline what we're doing, and that is to create a choice of a category and choice of a duration. So you choose what kind of ride you're going to have and then how long you're going to ride. In the regular category, this is most of the trips that we provide. These are within Pinellas County. We're asking to reduce the number of categories so that in the reduced category, we have both seniors and youth and students. Right now we have a student cash fare as well as a reduced cash fare, and it gets kind of confusing. And so to consolidate these into one category makes sense for us to go to a streamlined fare structure. The third category, regional, is really to prepare us for that regional fare collection, is offering more fare products now that we are going to be able to have cross-county travel that's a lot easier. So with our current pricing, this is the proposed fare structure. So again, going from that long list of a fare table to this matrix concept. This streamlines the past products that we have. It streamlines the description of how we talk about what fare somebody might buy. It adds a customer-requested product of a 3-day pass in all categories, regular, reduced, and regional. In this scenario, again, this is the structure only, the transportation disadvantaged 10-day non-consecutive pass is recommended to be a 7-day consecutive pass. Otherwise, there are no changes other than those indicated in green, which would be new fare products. With the price adjustments, we would go from a regular cash fare of $2 to $2.25 and a reduced cash fare from $1 to $1.10. This also changes in the daily pass and the monthly as well, for the regular at least. In this scenario, we would also recommend the TD monthly pass go from the current $8.25 to $11 per month. So when you compare this to the regular monthly, it goes from an 87% discount to an 84% discount. Still a really good deal for that community. We've also created a conversion table so people could easily see what pass am I using now and what would I go to in the future. This also includes a change to the DART cash fare, going from $4 to $4.50, and that's in line with our federal guidelines and what we need to do there. We've also looked at comparison to other Florida systems, and we are generally in line with what others are doing. I did leave Jacksonville in here as an indication of what an agency can do when it has other revenue sources. So you see the fares are much lower at JTA, but they're also a tolling authority. We also had some interesting ideas from others that we could look at later, certain discount packages, and the JTA also has a special youth program. If in our current proposal to change the structure and the fares, if we eliminate the hall pass, we could look at something like a buy one, get one. This allows us to maintain the structure of the matrix, but then also give people some options within there. We are proposing to make these both changes at the same time, to have one explanation of the new fare, the new structure, and get people ready to use the new fare media. We think those two things, being ready for the new fare media, will be really important. We do have some public engagement that we've been doing for the route service changes. We've had all the fare information available there. We have gotten a few comments about the fare structure at those meetings. We will also have 3 more meetings just about the fare structure on August 24th, August 25th, and September 8th. We would ask that you consider this for your public hearing, which would be September 9th at 6 p.m. You have the first of your budget hearings that same night, with the fare changes to be implemented October 11th with the route changes. There are some comments that we got from the track last night regarding the hall pass and the TD 7-day. They thought that the TD 7-day probably needs to be looked at, and maybe there was an opportunity to, for the current $5 for the 10-day, to make that a 2 7-day consecutive passes for $5. We think that would be an agreeable change. And then a discussion about the hall pass. If we eliminate the hall pass, that we find another way to encourage youth to take buses over the summer or throughout the year, for that matter. That was the short version.
Okay. Do we have a calculation on what the impact of these changes would be for our overall receipts?
Yes, it would generate just over $1 million to change these fare products, again, using the conversion table here that we showed you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
I had,
Yes, sir. Commissioner Dayton?
yeah, I had one on what is my 103 structure and price changes conversion table.
Yes?
Over on the far right, we have percent of total bus trips, and the first group, it comes down to 64%, and then the next takes you down to about 76%. Where are all the rest of the bus trips?
Next slide. TD.
Okay.
See that 31?
31.
23.5.
23 point. No. What am I supposed to see?
Next slide, next page.
Yeah. And where does it say?
23%.
23.5.
So you have an extra 78.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you.
So So we are in the middle of getting a lot of public feedback on this and talking to a lot of groups. Brian is the vice chair of the MPO's local coordinating committee, which received this yesterday and recommended the changes we're proposing in the Transportation Disadvantage Program. It's really informational time for you as a committee to just ask questions and get feedback, and you're welcome to stay for the next committee meeting and hear it again and ask more questions. The final public hearing on this will be at your September 9th meeting, which is also your first budget hearing of fiscal year 16. So stay tuned for more. You have time to cogitate about it and come up with questions.
One more question. Okay. When we're doing our combining all of the R's, PST, HART, and the other together so that we can do one fare increase, it looks like here, when we comparison other Florida systems, it looks like we're higher than everybody else. Are we suggesting that they're going to raise their rates, or is it just you to buy one pass and you put it in over in HART, and how does that work?
We've talked about that with HART and also working to set up a regional working group meeting to have them look at our fare policy. They've all been waiting for us to do the work on the fare policy because we have the largest planning staff. So they're anticipating some changes in their own fare policy. That said, we are also looking at a formula for cross-county trips, so that we would each pay a certain amount based on the number of our own passengers that use their system, and vice versa.
Okay, so that's all in the...
So it would be, yes, it would be a formula exchange.
Okay.
Commissioner Johnson?
Do we know when HART last made a fare change?
I do not, off the top of my head, no, but I do know that they are at $2.
Yeah, I was just wondering if they went to $2 last year or 3 years ago.
I don't think it was very recent, but I'd have to get that date for you.
I think that would be useful information to have in your pocket.
Okay.
For the board meeting.
All right, so is everybody comfortable with this? We ready to make a recommendation?
You don't have to.
We don't have to make a recommendation? Good. Okay. All right. I apologize to our fellow commissioners for the next group that we had some contentious issues and we're running a little behind. I apologize. So my suggestion is that we read the quarterly reports on our own, and the only issue was with regard to the additional information that we were going to get back.
Are you ready for that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have two numbers. One is the percentage of the gross cost, which is before we take out advertising, fares, and any grants. And the second number is the net cost for each one of these. For the Clearwater Beach, PSTA pays 30% of the gross cost and 54% of the net cost. For the North Coastal, it is 36% of the gross cost, 52% of the net cost. For Safety Harbor, it is 22% of the gross cost and 50% of the net cost. And for the Looper, it is 26% of the gross and 42% of the net.
All right. Okay, so is everybody comfortable with those figures?
Obviously,
I'm trying to figure out where they go.
okay, so
This is on the...
What we're possibly looking for is a recommendation from the committee about these various agreements with the Jolly Trolley and Looper that are incorporated in the budget for next year. Each of the services that Sandra just listed have been separately negotiated over the years. And so, as you can see, all of the proportions are around half. PSTA pays half of the net cost, but they're not exactly the same. They don't follow the same formula. They're each their own separate thing. We have a plan for the future to competitively procure these 2 years from now that will change all this and make it consistent. But it's not consistent yet because each has their own separate funding partners and setup. But over time, it will become a consistent process.
Okay.
Just if I may ask one other
Yes.
question.
Commissioner Jones.
Again, these are basically continuing the same arrangement as we had as present here.
Yeah.
There's no increase from PSTA on any of these, right? It's pretty much just the same across the board.
No change in formula, but the negotiated price unit cost increases for the Jolly Trolley. Yeah.
So there's an increase in that hourly rate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what we're going from and to? I know we're going to $60.75.
$60.75.
What was it?
This is down to 5.8%.
What was the number?
5.8%.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, do we need a motion on this?
I got a question.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we're looking at these things, and we're spending $30,000 here and so forth, and I'm remembering in our previous accounts where we're dropping 58 or this, and we're looking at what we're saving. We're saving like $300,000 here, hundreds of thousands of dollars when we're dropping the whole thing. So that we could, what we're talking about is just $30,000 to move all these people. It's not like this is instead of a couple $100,000 that we're talking about $30,000. That's it. There's no buses involved that we have. There's no drivers. We're just $30,000 for these things. That's it, right? So when we're talking before about how much the four that we were dropping, that came up to $930,000. This, what we're talking about, is $20,000, $30,000, and that's it for moving all these people. So it's
a small piece.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Clearly, the partnerships that we have created, that have been created over time with the other entities, has allowed us to provide these trolley services at a substantially lower cost to PSTA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Considerably.
Okay.
What is our hourly rate? Do
We have a couple different rates. The incremental rate is what, Mike?
Okay, $72 around.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Need a motion?
Yes, I do.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the trolley agreements.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, what? We have a comment in the back? I'm sorry. Yes, please.
I just wanted to make sure that you understand also that the 5.8%, what we have done in the last 4 years of the contract is that we have negotiated a rate that we lived by for 2 years. So this next rate, where we've gone from 57.43 to 75, that's the first increase we've had in 2 years. So it's less than 3% a year of what we've asked for. So just so that you're aware, the 5.8 per year has been spread over 2 years.
Okay. All right. Yes, sir.
Also, there's been a significant increase in ridership with benefits PSTA in their ability to attract federal dollars for ridership.
Okay, excellent. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And again, I apologize to our fellow commissioners for holding you up. We ran into some issues that we needed to spend some time on, and I appreciate your patience. Thank you very much. Meeting's adjourned.
Good one. 5 minutes, and we'll start.
The last thing we covered is in their packet also, so we saved them some time. Really?
Is this for us to keep?
They got a preview of it. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was there with our.
All right, very good. All right. Good to see things moving with the, here, I saw it on the